Bonsoir, and welcome to this traditional video on cider making with a horse in Jersey. Hold your horses, chaps. Let's get some apples first. Ah, there he is! A fine fellow of a man, picking apples out in the orchard. Now you don't have to be as anal as these chaps on the right, but if the apples are ripe enough, you can pick straight from the tree, and this avoids the insect damage and rot that you get from apples on the floor. This is a traditional Jersey granite apple crusher, similar to those found in the cider making regions of Brittany and Normandy. Apples are loaded in a single layer until the trough is full. Dead leaves and rotten apples can also be removed at this point. When the trough's full and the horse is ready, it's time to get crushing. Let's just slow things down for a second and give that brakeman time to fix his rope. And we're off! Now, as in many walks of life, the spooner has a very important role. He follows closely behind the wheel and ensures that all the apples are pushed into the centre of the trough. Then we repeat the process. Until the apples have been crushed into a fine pulp, at which stage more apples are added to the trough and the process starts again. We stop crushing apples when the chap with the moustache decides he's had enough. The pulp is then gathered in traditional plastic buckets and taken to the press. If your staff have forgotten to wash the barrels, because you pay them in cider, then this is probably your last chance to do so. Over at the press, the first layer of hessian has already been laid out, and the first couple of buckets of pulp have been poured on top. The pulp is levelled out into one flat layer, and it's particularly important to ensure that the corners are adequately filled. Creating an even base is paramount, as any lopsided layer will cause havoc later in the pressing process. Occasionally, large segments of apple will have evaded the granite wheel, and these should be removed at this point, failing which you're likely to split your hessian, and nobody wants to see that. A wooden frame is raised between side ladders to ensure that the stack remains even on all sides. Quick release pins on either side of the frame hold it in place. Once the frame has been secured, a new sheet of hessian is laid out, ready to be filled with another layer of pulp. The hessian is laid square over the centre of the frame, with equal overhangs on each side. This will allow sufficient room for the hessian to be folded back over the top of the pulp once the layer is full. What a beautiful stack! You'll see from the top of the screw that there's very little space left above the screw and the top bar. The press is essentially full at this point. Juice is already running through, even though there's very little pressure on the press itself. A lever is inserted into the screw mechanism in order to allow the press to be wound down. This single pressing took us about 4 hours of apple crushing and resulted in about 500 litres of cider. Note to self, the hessian should have been soaked for a day in advance, as this allows the juice to run through more rapidly. The juice is poured into the barrel through a final hessian sieve. Just enough time to give the old chap a wash. Thanks for watching, happy cider making, à la prochaine!